It was the first time I'd been calling Mion's house. I searched for her in the phone book the school gave me, then dialed a short phone number, the kind unique to remote places. It was around dinner time. She would probably be home, but just as I started to think nobody would respond, someone finally picked up the receiver.
Hi, Sonogi desu.
Hey there, Mion.
夜分遅くにすみません。ミオンか。
どちら様です？
俺だよ、ケイチだ。
ああ、ケイちゃんか。何こんな時間に。
She seemed to be in a really good mood, and she drew her syllables out. Right. It's the night before tomorrow's festival, so she's probably with her family having some drinks.
悪いな、こんな時間に。
Okay, this is pretty interesting. Like, you would understand that Mion's voice would sound as if it's coming from the phone, you know that? Like the phone voice, kind of filtering for it. But so does Keiichi. It's like you hear Mion's voice from the other end of the phone, and you hear Keiichi's voice as if you were from Mion's house. Like, what is the deal with that? Whereas before, when we were having like conversations over the phone, Keiichi's voice was normal, as if he was in this room, whereas we would hear Mion's voice from the other side, through the phone. Crazy idea. Maybe we're hearing like an interception. There is actually a third person who is listening in on the conversation, hearing both Keiichi and Mion on their own ends of the phone. But I don't know about that.
今、時間は大丈夫か？
うん。何？
サトコのことなんだけど。
I heard her draw in a small breath on the other end. Yeah, she's going all... Okay.
サトコ、大変なことになっちゃったね。大丈夫かな？
The scent of sake had completely disappeared from her.
大丈夫なわけないだろう。お前も見ただろ。あれ。あんな。
Oh.
擦り切れるまでにいじめ抜かれて。
Okay, there you go. Yeah, I guess so. I guess it was just a game. It was just being weird about that.
俺たちはあんなになるまでずっと見捨ててきた。
見捨ててたわけじゃないよ。みんな助けようとして必死に考えてたよ。
でも結局何も思いつかなかったし。サトコを救えたわけじゃないだろう。
You know, I noticed that the voice work in this chapter is a little bit off at times. Like the quality on some lines have dipped at times, and now we have this. I don't know.
結局あんなになるまで俺たちは何もできなかった。
そうだね。私は結局見てただけかも。
だからさ、せめて一夜くらい遊ばせてやろうじゃないか。
Looking back at this chapter, like, Mion, you have been very, very calm about this entire thing and such. Ren, on the other hand, we had like 3 instances where Rena ended up being really, really pissed at Keiichi. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, like, it's Rena we're talking about, the person that normally you would see as the most understanding out of all the girls and would know how to handle some situations. But this chapter, it feels as if which, you know, in my eyes, it kind of feels like it's understandable because the topic is Satoshi. Satoshi disappearing definitely scarred Rena as well. The way she turned all demonic that one time while we were walking with Mion, like outside, and in the classroom when Keiichi was yelling at Mion, and even when Satoko was having her meltdown and Rena tried to calm down, and Rena went to a point where she even called him an asshole for what happened, which, you know, it is understandable for Rena to eventually get pissed off at Keiichi for yelling at Mion during that one time. But right now, I get the feeling that this is another case of miscommunication. Because it was only after the report happened that Keiichi found out from Rika and the Chie that, oh, these reports actually happened before. And Satoko is the one who did the first report. Thus, the public view for Satoko would be that of a brat, of a rebellious brat that would do pranks. So people wouldn't take her phone, like the report, seriously. It is only after this news report that Keiichi found out about this past about Satoko. I get the feeling that if Keiichi were to know beforehand about these reports, then Keiichi probably wouldn't have forced Chie to make the report as much, and therefore this wouldn't have happened, maybe. And I get the feeling that Rena was really, really pissed at Keiichi during the meltdown because she knew that Keiichi had a hand in making this report in the first place, whereas Rena did not want this to happen. She thought that, like, for a second, she was angry at Keiichi because he was the source of this report, thus having Satoko have like a meltdown like the day before. Which, you know, more than likely Satoko went through a really, really rough moment the night before with the uncle. Like, the uncle must have been, like, extremely violent with Satoko in ways that I just cannot describe publicly. I wouldn't want to describe publicly what would have happened, like what happened that night. So, could it be possible that Rena was angry at Keiichi for this? But, you know, it's a case of miscommunication, Rena. You know, if any of you girls would have told Keiichi about this, like maybe talk this stuff up the way Mion did, like previously, then maybe something like that wouldn't have happened as harshly. I don't know. But yeah, going back to the topic, like, Rena has been quite something this chapter, that's for sure. Which, on one hand, I understand, but at the same time,
遊ばせるって。
あいつもいろいろと参ってるのわかるだろう。だからさ、明日の綿流しのお祭りにあいつを連れて行ってやってほしいんだ。
それは構わないけど。どうして？
どうしてって、せめて祭りの夜くらい息抜きさせてやりたいじゃないか。たとえ一夜でもあの意地悪なおじの元から離れられるなら、短い時間でもきっと聡子は喜ぶ。
だからどうして？
どうしてって何がだよ。
I was having a little difficulty understanding what Mion was asking me. Is Mion suspecting something right over here? Is she suspecting that Keiichi is gonna do something?
どうして？ケイちゃんが連れて行ってあげないの？私に頼まなきゃならないの？
Tell her that you actually have some business to take care of first. Mion was... Well, actually, no. If you are to say that, then that will be sus afterwards. It feels like one of those situations where you have to be both places at the same time. Mion was persistent about a lot of things. No. Maybe it'd be better to say that she was sharp.
俺、実はちょっと明日は用事があってさ、祭りには行けない。だから聡子、ミオンが連れて行ってやってほしい。
用事って？
大した用事じゃないんだ。多分すぐに片付くと思うけど、 ひょっとすると明日は合流できないかもしれない。なあ、ミオ、明日の夜だけサトコを頼めないか。
Mion took a long time to give a reply. Oh, she's thinking. She's thinking that Keiichi is gonna do something stupid. I got a feeling that Mion had been acting weird for a while now. Like she was flustered by emotions or something.
いや。
Oh, was that a sob? Mion? Are you crying?
私、嫌だって言ったじゃない。私なんかに押し付けられても困るって。
別に押し付けるつもりなんかないよ。明日の夜だけでいいんだ。
嘘だったじゃない。
What? Mion, what is she talking about?
綿流しの夜だけって言って結局ずっとだった。嘘つき。でもおあいこかな。私全然あなたとの約束守ってないから。あの子はずっとほったらかしだしね。
I had no idea what to say to that. Mion was clearly not talking to someone other than me. I didn't know who. All I could do was listen to her in the days.
あれからずっと帰ってこないのに、あの子のことをもう一度押し付けるためだけにまた電話をしてきたんですね。本当にずるい人。ねえ、あなたサトシ君なんでしょう。
ミオ、さっきから何の話だ？
That's surely not something that I expected. I was thinking that she was crying because she knew what went through Keiichi's mind. That Keiichi was gonna go through and murder the uncle, and Mion was crying that something like this was gonna happen, but...
ごめん。なんでもないの。ちょっと、ケイちゃんの今の電話にそっくりな電話を昔受けたことがあって。
それ、ひょっとしてサトシか。
Mion didn't answer. All I could hear were sobs coming through the receiver.
ごめんね。ちょっと私、寝ぼけてるみたい。変なとこで感情的になっちゃった。ごめんね。焦ったでしょ。
I had no idea how it happened, but I was pretty sure that last year, on this very day, Satoshi had called Mion and told her to bring Satoko to the festival. Oh. And when she asked why he needed her to do it, he replied the same way I just did.
サトシ、祭りに行かなかったんだな。
うん。用事があるから自分は行けないって言って。代わりに私にサトコを祭りに連れて行ってくれって。
その時、サトシも言ったんだな。サトコを頼むって。
うん。言ったよ。明日の夜だけ頼むってね。ケイちゃんの言い方があまりにもよく似てたんでちょっと思い出して取り乱しちゃった。
I didn't expect this. Satoshi had given her the exact same phone call 1 year ago today. Well, Keiichi, I'd say that this is like a warning to you a little bit over here, or going down the same path as Satoshi, possibly. In which case, if something bad were to happen, and the same outcome would happen just like last year, would you be able to go through this plan with the possibility that you would be living forever, and that Satoko would have to live for the rest of her life, now with minus one person that she loves, who may disappear? Yeah, it's something to think about. If you were to disappear from Satoko's life as well, as a result of this. After that, Mion had said more. That he was lying. That he told her it would only be for the night of the festival.
そうだったな。サトシはその数日後に消えた。
Disappeared might have been a rather vague way to put it. Whether he ran away or not, Satoshi left, abandoning Satoko.
そう。天候でもなく、家出でもなく、消えたの。
And then, an idea far more indistinct than even fog crossed my mind. Satoshi made exactly the same phone call as me last year. Why would Satoshi make the exact same call? If, in the true sense, he really made the exact same phone call as I am right now. At the instant where their aunt was beaten to death. That's... could it? Oh, Keiichi is thinking it.
サトシだ。
Keiichi, you probably shouldn't say this. You probably should stop the topic right now. Otherwise, we're gonna make Mion think that you, Keiichi, were actually gonna go the same path as Satoshi. Therefore, Mion is gonna suspect that you're gonna do something here.
え？何が？
Last year, Satoko had been constantly abused by her uncle's wife, their aunt too. Her aunt abused her the most. And on that night, in the name of Oyashiro-sama's curse, she was taken from this world. If I thought about that, everything made perfect sense, didn't it?
去年、サトコのおばが殴り殺されたじゃないか。あれ、サトシってことは考えられないか？
No, but that would mean... But then, Satoshi, he was a coward who abandoned Satoko and ran away, wasn't he? How could Satoshi resolve himself to kill a person, to save Satoko? He was unthinkable. And yet, here you are, Keiichi. Try to think about your position that you are in right now. You were calling Satoshi like a coward beforehand. Well, you're kind of going through the same motion as he did, if it's actually what happened.
私も実はそれを疑ったことがある。サトシには悪いけど。
A few days later, he disappeared. On Satoko's birthday. When I first heard it, I flew into a rage. What a cruel day to have to run away on. But now that I thought about it like this, the story changed completely. Satoshi had probably been even less calm than I was now. He was her big brother, related by blood, watching his little sister be abused day in and day out. Maybe that's why he couldn't keep calm. And that was why the corpse of their aunt, beaten to death, was so easily discovered. Satoshi lost himself in his anger and hadn't hidden the corpse. He permitted a beginning to occur. He would have at least conducted a full-blown investigation. It was easy to imagine that it wouldn't take long to pin down Satoshi as the culprit. Satoshi, he wished for a return to peaceful days with Satoko. And though he achieved it for a time, he had been steadily driven into a corner. And then he wanted to at least hold out until Satoko's birthday. But finally, they nailed him. At the time, Satoshi had been carrying the savings he'd amassed to buy Satoko a giant stuffed animal for a birthday present. Oh, the savings that they were talking about. He would buy the stuffed animal as her gift, and then get caught. Or he could use the money and disappear. That was the choice he had been forced to make. And he decided not to make Satoko the sister of a murderer. If that was the case, then it must have been an unspeakably bitter decision. All that money he'd saved wanting to save Satoko. All that money he'd saved wanting to see Satoko happy. He had to use it to make her sad. And he used the savings and disappeared to Tokyo, if the rumors were true.
サトシはそれで消えたのか。
それはわからない。大石なんかはそう思ってるみたいだけどね。
Oishi. Had he been slowly driven into a corner by the repulsive man's pig-headed pursuit?
確かに状況証拠は揃ってるけど、多分ケイちゃんの推理は外れだと思う。県内のどっかで捕まったろくでなしが犯行を自供したっていうし。
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, who is this person that they caught? Never really crossed my mind who that person could be. Just some random stranger that just popped in to be a possible replacement for Satoshi last year. And that was right. The deviant had confessed, and the incident was solved.
そいつは本当にただの異常者で、Hinamizawaとは何の縁もない男だったって。もちろんサトシとも何の関係もない。だからそんな奴がサトシの身代わりになって嘘をついてくれたなんて到底思えないし。
You couldn't just arbitrarily decide like that. You never know where or how humans are tied together. If that guy took the blame, then it was the perfect crime. Of course, if it was really a perfect crime, there would have been no reason for Satoshi to vanish. That is true. Which, I guess a part of me, this is a part of the reason why I thought I didn't really think up to this point that Satoshi would be the one to kill the aunt. Because there is this secret third person that just popped in to be the murderer of the aunt. Whereas initially you would think that Satoshi disappeared because of the same pattern as last year's, that somebody kidnapped Satoshi. Whether it's for experimenting and all that, that's my theory, but nonetheless that he disappeared forcefully. Because otherwise he wouldn't. And then I was thinking, maybe the deviant that they were talking about was Satoshi? Like, they possibly pinned the crime on an innocent person? But then the same question will pop in as just right now. Like, the deviant basically confessed that they were the ones who did it, so they must have had some connection to Satoshi. Was it another family member? A family member that tried to protect Satoshi and Satoko, and took the blame.
それに、サトシには逃亡資金なんてなかったと思う。サトシが預金を下ろした日、これは誰に言っても信じてくれないんだけど、サトコのために買うと言ってたぬいぐるみが、売れてショーケースからなくなってたの。きっと、サトシが買ったに違いない。
ちょっと待てよ。逃走資金に使わないで、ぬいぐるみを買うために使ったなら、サトコのところへ帰るはずだろ。ぬいぐるみを買って、それを届けもせずに蒸発するなんて考えられない。
うん。だから、わからなくなっちゃうんだよ。まとまったお金があるならともかく、貯金を全部使っちゃったなら、サトシは無一文。お金もなく逃亡生活ができるほど、世の中は甘くないよ。
I didn't get it. After all that, I was understanding Satoshi less and less. Maybe we truly are talking about a third party right over here. That, okay, Satoshi was indeed buying that stuffed animal, and he didn't plan on killing the aunt or anything like that. And there was like a unknown person that did the killing. In which case, the two of us fell silent. I couldn't remember how we even got on this topic.
ごめん。どこで話が脱線しちゃったんだか。さとこの件ね。安心していいよ。実はもうちゃんと誘ってあるんだよ。
え？本当かよ。
祭りの準備でみんなで神社に行った時さ、さとこを祭りに呼ぼうって話になったんだよ。それで集会所の電話でそのまま電話して誘ったんだ。
Okay.
おじのやつ、よそよそしくて勝手にしろみたいな感じだったけど、とりあえず OK はしてくれた。明日みんなで待ち合わせしていくことになってるんだよ。安心した？サトシ。
バカ、俺はサトシじゃないって。
I was a little relieved. I hadn't needed to make the phone call, so that way I'd already been invited to the festival. And not in a way that smelled of blood, a way to leave her uncle alone to create time for me to kill him. They barely wanted Satoko to enjoy herself, so they invited her. In the end, it was the same, but I was happy for that slight difference.
すまないな。俺が電話をするまでもなかった。昨日にしろ今日にしろ、変な話ばかりしてすまないな。忘れてくれ。
こっちこそ本当に申し訳ない。柄にもなく取り乱しちゃって。本当にごめん。
We apologized to each other for a little bit.
じゃあ俺はこれで失礼するな。おやすみ。
何の用事？
As if interrupting our parting words, Mion struck straight where it hurt.
それもまた、サトシと同じように言えない？
バカ。だから俺はサトシじゃないって言ってるだろ。
うん。そんなのは分かってるよ。
I deflected her, with a response that wasn't really an answer. Mion didn't hound me anymore after that.
じゃあ今度こそおやすみな。
どうしてケイちゃんがサトシ君と全く同じ電話をしてきたのかわからないけれど。なんでもない。ごめんね。おやすみ。
切るぞ。
Click. Satoshi Hojo, just who are you? I scorn you as a coward who ran away, abandoning his sister. I always thought you didn't have the right to call yourself her needy, but now I didn't know what to think. Ayashiro-sama's curse in the 4th year, your aunt's death, and Satoshi's disappearance. And now, you trying to carry out Ayashiro-sama's curse on the 5th. Oddly enough, what I was going to do overlapped perfectly with Satoshi, the day before the curse. Another parallel moment. No, that wasn't all. We start back from Satoko being abused, and I've been overlapping with Satoshi for days already. Hold on a second. This actually brings me back to the first chapter now that I'm thinking about it, with the whole Satoshi, Keiichi, and the metal bag thing. Because the idea is that, okay, in the first chapter, the festival went, and then Keiichi, in similar fashion to Satoshi, became more and more terrified, more and more angry, more and more paranoid about stuff, to the point where he would be holding the bat with him like every day. And then we had Rena basically confess to Keiichi that you are doing exactly the same thing that Satoshi did last year. He was becoming so paranoid, he was carrying a bat with him, and then he disappeared. Just like that. When I talked to Mion before, she asked me if I was Satoshi. If that was the first impression a third party like Mion got, it was probably true. Then I guess you could say that the same thing could happen to Keiichi. Like, in similar fashion to the first chapter, the Watanagashi would happen, Keiichi would murder the uncle, and then, day by day, he would once again go through that same state where the people around him would become so demonic in his eyes that he would need to protect himself from them with a male bat. He would carry it with him. In which case, Keiichi not only would have to go through the thought of, like, through not only would the Keiichi have to live with the fact that he killed a person for the rest of his life, he would also have to protect himself from the demons around him. Then as Satoshi had accomplished, I would succeed in the murder. But that was the extent to which we overlapped. I was far calmer than Satoshi, and more calculating. I could actually grow calmer the more enthusiastic I became. That's why I wouldn't follow in Satoshi's footsteps. I would snip him cleanly off the road, and then get our peaceful life back. Maybe Satoshi has been with me ever since I chose to use Satoshi's bat as my weapon. No, maybe even longer than that. When I decided I'd be her Nini, maybe Satoshi had been residing within me too. Satoshi, were you really a coward? Or are you a true Nini even now? The kind worthy of Satoko's love? I never met him, never spoken to him, didn't know his face. And yet I felt so connected to him. I never felt that way before. Alright. Note on the housewife murder case. Alright. Alright, well, let's see about the murder of the aunt. For the attention of those on the housewife slaughter incident case. Alright, well, recently we have been confronted with a new spin to it, in that maybe it was Satoshi who killed the aunt? In which case, what is the deal with this unknown hooligan that killed the aunt? You know, speaking of parallels again with Keiichi and Satoshi, it kind of brings me back to like the earlier part of this chapter where Keiichi convinced that dude from the baseball team, like the superstar baseball player, to do as he wants, and they became best buds and such. Maybe in similar fashion, Keiichi is gonna use that guy for something of a year, but I doubt it, to be quite honest. But it kind of brings me back to Satoshi. Maybe Satoshi convinced somebody to kill the aunt, or at the very least, Satoshi killed the aunt and the other person took the blame for it. Or, you know, this option is presented to us like very, very directly, to the point where it makes me think that maybe that's not it. Maybe it truly is like somebody is trying to make us think that it was that hooligan that did it, or a second option would be that Satoshi is the one who did it, but in reality somebody else has planted Satoshi to be like a second backup culprit in case the hooligan is starting to get suspicious in terms of not being the culprit and such. Like Satoshi would be like the backup culprit that we would think of. But there is actually a third option. Whoever that option is, I don't know. July 1982. Okinomiya Police Station, 1st Investigative Division. I'm saying that because... Like, I'm starting to look at Mio Takano a little bit more recently when it comes to her involvement in all this. Mio Takano, and I guess for that matter, Tomitake, they feel kind of sus. They truly are sus in all this. To the point where it would make you think that, oh, it's too obvious that they are the ones who did it. But, I would think that. Reason why I didn't even think much about them in the first 2 chapters. They would be too easy, but I don't know. Chief Takasugi, Prefecture Police Headquarters for the Eradication of Drug-Related Crime. Shishibone Branch Head. Regarding incident designated as undercover investigation. This message is to inform you that a section of the testimony records of an incident under this police headquarters jurisdiction has been found. That is thought to be related to the undercover investigation of the incident in question, Okinomiya Police Station X, Hinamizawa Village Housewife Slaughter Incident. During investigation of suspect, who was arrested for possession of illegal drugs, there was a testimony alluding to the crime in question, and it became clear that it contained information that only the perpetrator could have known. Ooh. Therefore, we are prepared to share this record of testimony with you. Duplicate attached. If this testimonial is to be believed, then there is an extremely high chance that suspect was the perpetrator in the incident in question. In addition, receiving this testimony with the head investigator on the case inquired as to the incident with the Okinomiya Police Station. But the responsible party at Okinomiya Police Station misunderstood, and in compliance with the designation as undercover investigation by executive... Wow. Okay, hold on. And in compliance with the designation as an undercover investigation by executive order from Prefectural Police Headquarters on July 1st, 1982, General Administration, B-112, they did not explain the incident's existence to the head investigator as they should have. Because of this, the head investigator did not realize the importance of the testimony as it related to the case in question, and as a result, was negligent when combing the scene. We apologize for having effectively ignored it till now. In addition, there is a postscript stating that suspect died while in confinement yesterday on XXX. Ooh. Could it be that they were actually doubting that the one that was present was not the culprit? Ooh. Okay. Alright, I see you. Sunday. The fireworks I heard before noon were probably to announce the opening of the festival. And the weather certainly wasn't festival weather. It was cloudy. The television forecast was calling for possible downpours starting this evening and lasting until around midnight. But as long as it wasn't raining at the moment, the festival would go on. The festival had to open, or they wouldn't begin. The Furure Shrine Grounds were probably decorated beautifully for the big performance that only happened once a year. Many paper lanterns were hung up, all in the auspicious colors of red and white. The sound of electric motors at the stalls. The voices of kids running around. Their happy families watching them, smiling. Today was the festival of Wataragashi. Was everyone already partaking in the festivities? What about Satoko? Had she forgotten her days of suffering just for a few moments, while smiling that brilliant smile she hadn't in so long? This will probably be the longest day of my life. It'll be a day I would remember vividly for as long as I lived. I told my parents I'd go to the festival this evening, and lounged about during the early afternoon. We may have lived under the same roof, but I couldn't help being surprised by the deviation from how I usually spent my time. Glancing at my parents out of the corner of my eye, I went to the front door. Alright, Keiichi. Can't say that I agree with what is happening here, but let's see. Let's see where this path is gonna lead us. I tied my shoes just a little tighter than normal, as if I could express the firmness of my resolve into those knots. When I decided to murder Satoko's uncle, I was in such a state of excitement I almost went crazy. And when I was planning out the act of a murder, which went directly against all the morals fostered in me thus far, I was in such a state of calm I almost thought I had lost my emotions. And then, yesterday, when I learned Satoshi had made exactly the same phone call as me, I didn't know how to describe the muddled feelings I had then. And now, entering today, right now, I lacked all the emotions I possessed until now. To make a simple analogy, it was the kind of feeling you might get right after you wake up, when you're still half asleep and you don't feel anything very clearly. I had no anger towards the man for the violence he committed against Satoko, nor did I feel sadness towards or sympathize with her. I felt no discontent towards my friends, who had just waited and watched, never reaching out to her with any help, and no nervousness or fear towards the day that had finally come. Yes, right now, you could say I was in the best possible condition for carrying out the murder. When it came down to it, I'll probably need to let my violent emotions take control. I don't know, guys. Hypothetically, if you were put in a situation to murder someone, do you think you would be able to go all the way? I mean, I like to think that I wouldn't be able to go all the way. That my mental state would be in such a wreck before trying to do the murder, I more than likely wouldn't be able to go through it. I guess in similar fashion to suicide, if I'm to think about it. There was a saying that in order for you to commit suicide, you need the courage to do so. I think it was explained in like the first chapter and such. Like when it comes to the mental state of a person, and that you would need like multiple things in order for something like suicide to be able to kick in. Otherwise, there are a lot of cases where a person would try to commit suicide, but they ended up not, thankfully. And it's because of that one extra thing that would be needed to push them. I would slowly, surely, and silently move towards my one objective. And then, when I had my prey, an attack like a bullet. It was during the first chapter when, during the tips when we were discussing Tomitake's murder and such. Like the chemicals that would be needed inside a person's brain in order for suicide to be done, like all the way. And there was no emotion in that. Unless I'm remembering it incorrectly. Just a creeping mindset insects possessed. And that sort of sneaking feeling was just the best. I would kill Satoko's uncle like he was a worm. I had to laugh a little at thinking that way. Thinking like an insect. Tug. I tightened my laces one more time. And walked out the door. Alright. I brought the shovel out of the front store. I would need it to dig the man's grave. The shovel was a convenient one made for camping. If I twisted it like so and split it into three, I could easily hide it in my back. Okay, good. Well, because I was about to say, like, you should have hid that shovel, like, somewhere, but I guess you can hide it well. And I twisted the shovel and dismantled it. And even though I'd done it countless times before, I had trouble for some reason. Oh, well, there you go. There's a sign. There's that little action that makes you doubt yourself. The anxiousness. Like I was suddenly clumsy now. Well, I knew why. It wasn't because I was nervous. My weak-willed self, deep within me, was hesitant. I knew that the act of dismantling this show was the first step I'd take to becoming a murderer. The last twist was conspicuously difficult, when I finally submitted before the strength of my determination. The area around Satoko's house was outside my circle of activity. But even just riding my bike in the middle of the day like this might seem suspicious to an observant person. I definitely want to avoid meeting and talking to someone I knew. With that in mind, I chose the route to my destination carefully. I didn't mind going the long way round. With how long this day would be, I could never be too careful after all. Still, I was fortunate enough not to run across anybody on my way to the planned site of crime. I wasn't superstitious at this point, but it was a good omen. The place I would dig the hole was in this grove, a little further into the woods. I was worried I might not make it to the same place as before, since there were no signs to guide me. But I arrived there smoothly, and as expected. I took another look around. Not even a hint of human presence. The air was a little bit damp, but it was comfortable in the cool shade of the trees. I took the disassembled shovel out of my bag, and began skillfully putting it together. Then, I stuck the tip of the shovel into a soft-looking patch of the ground, and pushed it on with my foot. The shovel would split into the earth if I put some strength into that foot. The act of doing so seemed awfully like the point of no return, and it made me hesitate. I was just digging a hole with a shovel. It made me gulp hard. Calm down, Keiichi, my boy. Let's do a countdown. Get it done on the count of 3, okay? Alright. 1, 2. I couldn't do it on the countdown, despite it just being sticking the shovel into the ground. And I had to count down 5 or 6 times. You sure you want to do this, buddy? Because, you know, it kind of makes me think of the future. Of what would happen after the uncle dies. Even if you were to not get caught, and you would be able to live for the rest of your life with this in mind. Kind of makes me think of the possibility of Satoko finding out who did it. How would she feel if she finds out that you were the one who did it? Would she feel happy towards you? Something tells me that she wouldn't. I mean, I find Satoko as such a sweetheart of a girl. She'll feel really, really sad for you, Keiichi, for you to live a life like this. I guess it's in similar fashion to last year with Satoshi. Would Satoshi have wanted to be the murderer, the brother who murdered the aunt, and for Satoko to be the sister of that murderer? More than likely not. Satoshi would surely not have wanted that. So it kind of makes me think, even if we were to dig this hole and you were to not go all the way through with a murder. Satoko would just come here, she would find out that there's a hole right over here, and more than likely she would think that, somebody was going to murder the uncle, weren't they? So, I guess in a way, yeah, it is a point of no return in my eyes. Damn it. I'm just digging a hole. This is pathetic. As I thought that, I put strength into my heel like I was stepping on something unpleasant. And split. Came the sharp noise. It was only soft at the beginning. Roots and stones quickly got in my way, informing me just how hard it was to dig a hole big enough for a person. No decent person would ever come here anyway. Maybe it would be enough to cover them up with some dirt. Every time a naive thought like that crept into my mind, I bit down on it with my teeth and dug even harder. I've dug enough now. I could hide him like this. Every time I thought that, I would go down into the hole, grow disappointed at how shallow it was, and return to digging. Yeah, I might as well. The thin layer of sweat on my brow eventually formed into drops and fell to the ground. My back was in even worse shape. My damp shirt adhered to my skin, and it felt so disgusting. The things I couldn't stand the most were the mosquitoes. Maybe they were attracted by the scent of my sweat. The white and black striped mosquitoes would cling to me whenever I let my guard down. Oh boy. Okay, so a quick talk about going into the woods, into the mountainous regions. Like, yeah, you would think about the mosquitoes that you would see in your daily life that would annoy you. Imagine the kind of mosquitoes that you would have like in the mountainous regions. Like they are even more persistent in reaching your skin. Like after swatting them, they wouldn't just go away miles away. No, they would just flinch like a couple of centimeters and that's it. Like you would wave with your hand, and they wouldn't flinch as much. Like they are super insistent in being around your skin, ready to pierce you. Like that's the kind of mosquito that I would imagine right here near Keiichi. Especially with how hot you are and how sway you are, Keiichi. It's really bad. In that sense, I feel like that would give you away, Keiichi. Not only would you, like, if somebody were to find you, like, whether you are going to Watanagashi or you're just going away somewhere, if somebody were to look at you, not only would they smell you, thinking that you've done something today that is not normal, or they will look at the mosquito bites that you have on you, meaning that they would totally think that you went into the forest to do something, and that would create suspicion. So that kind of sucks. Maybe something like mosquito repellent or something like that would have been good. I don't know. It was hot. It was disgusting. I was sticky. I was itchy. All those uncomfortable feelings surged through me in waves.
くそったれ。だからなんだってんだよ。やめて帰れってのか。
I hadn't yelled at anyone. It was me talking to myself. Me telling myself something. Why was I feeling this way? And digging a hole all the way out here? What benefit would digging this hole give me? What harm would there be in not digging this hole at all? Wait. In the first place, who ordered me to dig? When I thought it over, maybe ever since grade school, or even before that, my whole life had only been me doing what other people told me to. You are a kid after all. You are still young, Keiichi. I didn't mean it was somehow constrained, living a life just based on the commands of others. And I didn't mean I was too lazy to try and find my own road in life. Metaphorically speaking, yes, he was like a road. I'd never been particularly physically fit. I didn't hit puberty very early, and if all my classmates and I got in line, I'd usually be on the shorter end. My scores in jump rope competitions and marathons were the very picture of average. And it wasn't like the captains of the dodgeball teams would have a passionate rock-paper-scissors contest to see which would get me. During those kindergarten and grade school years, it felt like someone was only worth how fast they grew and how fit they were. Looking back on it now, it was really uncomfortable for me. The thing that turned all that around was just a few words from my mother.
Keiichi? あなた、塾に入る気はない？学校の勉強がわかるようになって楽しくなるわよ。
The very first test I took at Scram School was kind of like a game. It was a lot of fun. It wasn't like the tests with the same exact problem dozens of times in a row. Every question had a picture to it, almost like one of those puzzle books that came with the manga magazines. If my studies at school had been like this, it would have been way more fun. Several days later, I went to the cram school again with my mother. And the enrollment paperwork. Mom and the person at the cram school had a very long, heated discussion. So I had accidentally dozed off and missed most of what they said. But I clearly remember one point. Mom had made a loud groan, surprised at something. What?
61って平均点が61点ですか？
いえ、違いますよ、お母さん。全国展開する当塾での平均偏差値が61です。簡易式の知能検査でも非凡な数字が出ています。まず申し上げて、前原圭一君は大変に頭がいい。
圭一が？でも学校では大した成績じゃありませんし、通信簿も2、3、4が適当に並ぶ平均的なもので、何かの間違いではありませんか？
いくつかの知能テストとも重ねましたが、その結果、興味深いことが分かりました。前原君は意味を持たない問題に非常に弱いのです。無味乾燥で自身の生活に結びつかない内容の問題に興味が持てないのです。
2+3 は分からなくても、リンゴが2個あって3個増やしたら何個にという形なら理解できるということですか？
その通りです。例えば正六面体の展開図を書けと言われて混乱する圭一君も、サイコロを切り開いたらどんな形になるというふうに聞けば見事に答えられるのです。
And that the person from cram school showed her a page from one of the exams I took. So not only would the Keiichi be really, really good when it comes to street smarts and, you know, everyday life situation, he is a visual learner. He would learn a lot better if he had something to associate with that topic. Like, you know, visualizing the paper, like the paper cube getting cut or something like that. It was a paper with questions about construction. Construction questions were universal, so they were really cool, weren't they?
正二十面体の展開図を書けという問題です。この問題を二十面体のサイコロを作るにはどんな風に厚紙を切ればいいと聞き直したら、圭一君はさも簡単そうにこれを書いてみせました。これは平凡なことではありません。
圭一、あなたどこかの本の雑誌の付録か何かで二十面体のサイコロを作ったことがあったの？
The dice only went from 1 to 6. I had never even considered before this test that there were dice with more than 6 sides. Yeah, well, if you were to play something like Dungeons and Dragons with the club, you would learn at that point. So it was fun to imagine what kind of shape a die that went up to 20 would have. If I had a die like that, I could win at snakes and ladders against anyone. So I immediately wanted to make it. Finally, I entered cram school. There were only 4 students in class they put me in, which was called Select. It was the highest class, and some of my classmates were in lower classes. And when I remembered how much better they had done at things like dodgeball and the 50-meter sprint, I felt happiness swell up within me for the first time. Even if I wasn't as good at them physically, I triumphed over them in other ways. It was fun at first. The more I did, the more I was praised. My teachers at school suddenly started pampering me, and it felt good. My parents were satisfied too, and I enjoyed seeing them satisfied. The more I listened to my parents' commands, the more fun things got. That did happen, didn't it? I grinned dryly in self-deprecation. Because, well, my studious life didn't end up lasting very long. At some point, it was described that you, Keiichi, were a very studious person, that you studied a lot more instead of having fun. And that changed with our club, with the girls. It was only at the beginning I enjoyed learning more and more. I gradually got along less with my friends. My classes were behind what I was learning in cram school. And I eventually stopped respecting the teachers, given that they could put me to sleep with their lectures. And, well, I was a disagreeable sort who bragged a lot about how much I knew. And the ways of the world wouldn't let me remain in a state of ecstasy forever. I would do as I was told, and I'd go above and beyond their expectations. And then they praised me. I was happy for that, and the cycle repeated itself like the wheels on a bike. I thought moving forward like that was how life worked. Like a bicycle. When I moved to Hinamizawa, I realized just how inadequate it was. Some things happened. I started saying how moving and getting a change in atmosphere would be nice. This is something that has never been explained up to this point, and to be quite honest, neither have I questioned it that much, and I was thinking that eventually we would find some stuff about this, but Keiichi, why did you and your family come to Hinamizawa in the first place? What happened in order for your family to say that we would need like a change in atmosphere? It kind of makes me question. And then my father. He had a place that he liked, and he'd gone to a few times to draw the nature. He started saying that he wanted to bring his atelier there. With me in blank amazement, they decided to move to Hinamizawa. The first day after transferring here, I went to the classroom with a teacher. I thought it would seem pitiful for her to bring me in there, so I placed my hand on the door before she could, snapped it open, and set foot into the room. I feel like this is gonna be sweet. The first day of school, meeting your best friends. Clara, the thrilling, powerful way I opened the door was none other than my own determination to try doing my life over again. And then, within seconds, that determination took a hard counter to the finish. A blackboard eraser fell on me. Now, there you go. Plus, there was a huge rock inside. It was a supremely painful trap someone had set up. A rock? How the fuck do you put a huge rock inside an eraser? What the fuck? Come on. So I thought it was already beating me right from the first day I transferred? That frightened me. I was bewildered. The class was surprised too. I wasn't just surprised that the students in class were all different grades and were different genders. it was because the room felt completely different from the schools I knew. And as I spent more time with them, my surprise continued to grow. And this fresh sense of surprise had never left my life, even to this day. Every day was a fresh new surprise. I never had a single boring day since coming here. The days were lively, spent with the other club members. We played old maid with cards with scratches on the back to cheat. We let all our passions go wild during our games. We went all out as regular participants in tournaments at this toy store in town, and many more things. Recently, during those times, there was the bento competition. And it was then. That's when I saw an unexpected side to Satoko. Thinking back on it, I only ate dinner with her 2 nights. Such a sweet, gentle time spent. And it warmed my heart remembering it even now. I realized that Satoko was pretending to be stubborn and firm, and how brave she was, part of her heart always waiting for her Nini to come home. And I vowed to become her Nini. Satoko may have been nagging and overly critical, as she knew how to take care of someone. But though it might have seemed like she was taking the lead, it was actually her way of depending upon another person. Even if Satoshi and Satoko's lives as siblings were confined by their uncle and his wife, they were still warm, sunny days. Which, looking at the earlier parts of this chapter when Satoko was the one responsible with the dinner and making the food for Keiichi, you would think that in the past, Satoko was the bigger sister out of the two, out of Satoshi and Satoko, that she was the bigger sister that would take care of Satoshi. Which, now it kind of makes you think that Satoshi was the most responsible, while Satoko was a little bit of a, a brat. Not saying it in a bad way or anything like that, no, she's young, of course, someone like her wouldn't know about the responsibilities of being a human being and, learning to do stuff and such, but yeah, when you think about it, the way she knows how to cook and such, especially cooking for Keiichi, who knows absolutely nothing about cooking, I guess you could say that it is a part of Satoko growing after Satoshi left, that she had to take a step up and learn some stuff, which would be cooking, and more than likely some other stuff. And I get the feeling that Rika helped Satoko a lot in that sense. Rika seems like the most serious and the most adult-like out of the children, that someone like Rika would grow up as what would be the word? As the most responsible out of all the girls, like very early on. So maybe something like that rubbed off on Satoko to grow up as well, in that sense. It's very interesting because, well, not only because of Yumineko and such, which is not that important right now, but more importantly, from what we've seen in Higurashi thus far, Rika and Satoko are the best friends. They more than likely know each other, like, off the back of their palms, so to speak. So it kind of surprises me that we haven't had as much interaction with Rika in this chapter yet. I mean, we talked with her, like, once, when it comes to the report and such, and I don't think I remember any other discussion. It was surprisingly with Mion that we talked a lot about Satoko. Like over the phone, like during the way back home afternoon, and back at Mion's home about the murder of of the uncle and the curse and all that, we talked with Mion a lot. Not with Rika. Which is interesting. It's kind of like, maybe it is intentional. Like Ryukishi is hiding something when it comes to Rika that he doesn't want us to know yet. When did those sunny days all go wrong? What mistake was made? Lamenting tragedies of the past would do no good, and I told myself that so many times. But I did anyway. Keiichi, isn't that why you chose your own path? To take back that life? Nobody ordered you to do this. You decided it on your own. You don't desire anyone's praise for this. You fought it all through yourself. You'll carve it out yourself. And you'll do it now. And this wasn't a path I could see very far down. Not like the road parents or society could offer. It was a narrow path, dark, and utterly distressing. One for which the next step would always be shrouded in darkness. Yeah, you know, in retrospect, for a child to grow up, to do things on their own, instead of being told by others, you deciding on your own to murder somebody, that was not on my bingo card when it comes to growth, that's for sure. But that disheartening path would keep on going forever. It was an unlimited path, and there was nowhere I couldn't travel. The kind of path only available to those able to imagine where they wanted to go. Don't be ashamed at breaking from the brightly lit paved road. In fact, feel proud that you found your very own path to walk. Again, the path of murder, but and I hadn't discarded the paved road either. Once I achieve my goal, I'll go back to that bright road, and then I'd spend those average sunny days at my leisure. Crush. When I next realized it, the hole had grown so deep I couldn't believe it. Well, I guess so. As much as a part of me doesn't agree with this kind of thing, I guess you found the determination to continue forward with that, so I guess there's no stopping it right now. Unless, plot twist, somebody is actually gonna kill the uncle way before you. That would be a twist, in that sense. Did I dig all this myself?
これだけ掘れば十分じゃないか。
I put my shovel into the bottom of the hole. Imagine being in the zone and thinking about something while you're working on something very, very hard. That to the point where when you're finished, being in the zone and stop thinking about what it is you're thinking that makes you even more determined, you would finish like the task like as if it happened in a split second. Maybe I had one of those moments where I was thinking about some stuff deeply in my mind, and like afterwards I realized, oh wow, I actually did this without thinking. Interesting. I would drag the body here, throw it into the hole, and coat it up with dirt. Even if it took me time to camouflage it by putting plants on top, it will all grow much more easily than digging this hole had. I glanced at my watch. It was almost evening, and I hadn't realized it. I may not have felt the time passing, but digging all this deep must have taken quite a lot of time. I took a seat on a slanted rock nearby. I wiped the sweat from my brow. You know, Keiichi, the time we spent together in Hinamizawa thus far, has been quite interesting. A lot has happened thus far. In the time that I spent here, in these chapters. Nowhere near close to figuring out what is going on, but, well, Eventually I will. One day, for sure. Eventually we will get to the bottom of what is happening behind the Oyashiro curse. I am looking at you, Higurashis. Yeah, I'm looking at you, like, in particular, you cicada on the tree, like, right there, like in the middle. I'm looking at you specifically. I have my eyes on you. Even though I have no eyes to begin with. Yo! Now, once it got a little darker, I'd go get the metal bat I hid in the schoolyard. Alright, well, let's see. Let's see if what I was thinking of is gonna end up being true. That somebody tampered with the metal bat, like, at the school. Or we're gonna go and find out that Satoko and the Mion are there because they had to meet each other. And the school would actually be the place where they would meet. And then they would go to the festival. Only for them to realize that there is actually a metal bat, like, near the construction machine. And Keiichi would end up being there, discovering the two, and be like, uh-oh. Now, let's see. Then I make the call to lure him out. Or, probably a more fitting, not fitting, but a more possible option would be that, okay, we're gonna get the metal bat from there. We wouldn't notice that somebody was there, but somebody might have been there before and saw the metal bat there. And only like the next days, we would find out from Satoko or Mion that, hey, there was a metal bat there near the construction machine. What the fuck was the deal with that? And Keiichi would find out that, uh-oh, somebody actually went to the school during the Watanagashi festival day? What the fuck? Uh-oh. Suspicion is being risen. And then, I do it. The number of things I needed to do to reach that moment were dwindling. I felt that moment closing in on me much more keenly than I did the passage of time. I didn't have any hesitation, but I still felt that, a contradiction. And every step in this process, I had a few chances to hesitate, to turn back, to let myself loose my nerve. Having to endure those meeting temptations and wait for when the time was right was an indescribably slow and painful torture. I found myself acting all weak because of that, but I stopped midway through. And this was okay. It was fine. I could detest the abnormal act of homicide as much as I wanted, and it didn't matter. I wasn't going to be a cutthroat killer after today. I would pass through the strange day and go back to the world I was in before. If I fell to the level of a psychopath who thought nothing of killing, I wouldn't be able to go back to my old life. So, this was fine with me. I didn't have to feel ashamed at hesitating to kill. Because, well, I was human. It was so fun to me that I be the bearer of Oyashiro-sama's curse at the same time I was aware I was human. I exhaled lightly instead. I concealed my presence and sharpened my senses in all directions to search for anyone around but me. Okay, let's go. One step at a time.